Junior researchers have a really difficult time implementing these principles. We're sent to grad school. We have a very short amount of time, maybe a year, to accomplish research projects. And what I always like to say, it's really difficult to spend a year drinking tea. It's really difficult to spend a year hanging out in Labrador when you need to pay an extra semester of tuition if you're not done. So the question I always like to ask experts in this space is, how can junior researchers who are just starting out go about participating in this research as respectfully as possible, given the constraints that academia puts on us? And maybe I'll start with our remote presenters and then move into in-room, and then we can flip things up afterwards. So Amy or Jess, did you have any particular thoughts there?
I guess I can start. I am also a junior researcher dealing with these questions right now and always. And I think I said near the beginning of my presentation just to like work within the scope of what we can do. We're not all on, I'm the only researcher on my project. It's not like a big thing with with a PI and a bunch of different researchers. It's just me. So I can only do what's in the limitations of my own capabilities. So I think just keeping that in mind and being mindful of what you can do within the space that you're given. And I think that is generally sufficient if you're being genuine and interacting with communities in a respectful way. They'll be responsive to that.
Thank you, Jess. And Amy, did you have any particular thoughts? I know you've taught me lots of things.
I think I have to speak from my experience, and I think my experience so far is that senior researchers, people who have been embedded within the academy for a long time, can sometimes be the bigger challenge. And junior researchers, I don't know who qualifies as like junior researcher, or if I do or what, but I think that people just sort of starting out in research are usually come with the expectation that they are going to learn with their partner and in collaboration. So, for example, Nick, you and then some others that we work with in their master's work and what have you, has been sort of the easiest, I think, if that makes sense. Yeah, the bigger challenges have been with senior researchers, and certainly those with entrenched within sort of institutionalized ideologies and ways of thinking about how research has been done in the past. Certainly that's not to universalize that statement either. There's lots of really good researchers with decades of experience behind them that has done great work with us.
Thank you, Amy. And I believe Max has some thoughts here in the rooms. I see the microphone locked and loaded.
Yeah, so I work in the research office at the university, and that means a big part of my job is putting out crises that happen, mostly in Indigenous research situations. And the problems that we have, to echo Amy, are almost never with graduate students who are literally our most productive researchers, because all they do is research, right, compared to folks who are employed by the university. That being said, as an advisor, I almost never recommend that my graduate students do community-based research unless they are very willing to do it for a very long time that surpasses all university expected timelines, which most of them can't afford to do. So it's always a trick about balancing feasibility with respectful methodologies, and not just methodologies, if a lot of my students are also Indigenous, and so also their own obligations, which can sometimes be even trickier to navigate and longer to navigate. So usually we have a big chat about that, and so far no one has chosen to not do community work. I have 2 PhDs who are like, yes, community work, against some of my advice, but that's because that's why they're there, right? So it's super tricky, and so it's the advisor's job to put as much work into making sure the resources are there, in training, in money, in time, in not having to do TAs so that they can go out, right, that sort of stuff, and not have time bound having to be on campus, as well as blocking certain committees from trying to take away money because now they have too much, right, and all this sort of stuff. That it becomes an advisor's very unique job if their student is doing community-based research. So it's not just the student who has to think about that, it's also the advisors.
Thank you very much, Max. And Ian, did you have any particular thought on junior researchers?
I don't have a whole lot to add, but having junior researchers and interns and stuff have to echo what Max and Amy have said, they've always been some of our hardest workers. We're kind of a new band, and we're also still kind of finding our own way with regards to approaching things and the community respectfully. So yeah, at the office, it's we're still kind of trying to figure our own way, you know.